Hey guys, Barrett here from Pickleball Kitchen. So you've gotten to the point where your third shot drops are, they're becoming consistent, they're getting really good and so on, but you may not be having too much success though when your team is serving. And this really can happen with people who are starting to get more advanced. Today, I'm going to show you something that you're probably missing when it comes to your third shot drops. Believe it or not, drilling is not going to quite get you there. So without further ado, let's get started. So believe it or not, one of the big mistakes that people make with a third shot drop has absolutely nothing to do with the technique, or at least not directly. The big mistake that people make with a third shot drop is they don't actually come into the net. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so I'm gonna be back here in this corner now, but let me just kind of show you a general situation that people get in. So Linda's gonna hit a ball to me, that's the return of serve, right? And then I'm gonna do the third. Okay, cool. So that was a nice little third there. But here's the big question though. If you're stuck in this situation where the return comes over and then you hit your third over and then they hit their fourth back to you and then you do another third, and you're doing this thing over and over and over again, as the serving team, as the person doing the third here, are you in a winning or a losing position? So just kind of think about that for a second. The answer is you're definitely in a losing position. Now, obviously we're doing this for demonstration purposes. When it comes to return, Linda would be way back there, right? But by the time she's come to the net, she's doing her fourth shots. I'm way back here doing the third, and not even on the baseline. Sometimes it can be up here, sort of in the transition zone, right? So this is a huge mistake that people make all the time. It's very common with people who have been drilling the third. They've been drilling the third shot drop over and over and over again, but they're not quite realizing the third means nothing if you don't actually take advantage of the positional strategy that it offers you. The whole point of the third is to get into the net. That's the whole point. Else we wouldn't be doing it. So if you're in this position and you're doing this third over and over and over again like this, okay, and you just keep hitting the ball over and she hits it back and then you hit it back in over and over and over, right? What she's learning about you is that you don't like to come into the net, right? You don't like to come in at all. And that is a disaster. It's an absolute disaster because you're not taking advantage of all the angles that can be created from a fourth shot. Here's the unique thing about this fourth shot. Let me change the camera real quick. The unique thing about the fourth shot in this sport is that if you look at it from the line here, there's 7 feet to the net, right? That means that in order for you to clear the net, the ball has to be on a pretty sharp angle coming up for the most part. There are times when it doesn't, right? But if we just take the ball right here, okay, the angle from here to the very top of the net, okay, it's a bit steep. What that means is that if you hit this ball too high over the net or too hard, it's going to go quite high. That means that if you hit your third and they end up hitting it too high, if you're running in, then you're going to be able to take care of it with a volley and win the point. But if you're staying back there on the baseline, that's never going to happen. And if you do that too many times, they're going to learn that about you. They're going to think that you're timid. They're going to think that you don't take opportunities, which makes their fourth easier. Because it's really easy to make fourth shots where you just kind of hit the ball over into the back of the court and not really worry about it because, hey, their opponent isn't running in. So let me switch the angle again and I'll show you how this works. So this stuff is complicated, okay? Let me just kind of go through this step by step here. Let's just do kind of a little bit of a thought experiment. Let's hit a third and then let's just walk forward to the middle of the court. Let's just do that and see what happens, okay? So here we go. Okay, cool. So what'd you notice that happened here? As I came in, as I walked in here, I had an okay third, I guess. But as I walked in here, since I'm standing in this position, Linda now knows that if she hits anything high to me at all, I'm going to be able to volley it. So if she hits kind of a lobby shot that would land near the baseline, I'm now going to volley that shot. That restricts Linda. That makes her think more about her shot, okay? That is how you begin this process. This is like the very basics of this. Now, you're gonna get times when that doesn't work, okay? So let me just show you that. Oh, okay, so that can happen. So as you noticed, I came up, my third was bouncing quite high, and then I got stuck here in the middle of the transition zone. The question is, okay, well, if I begin to come up and I begin to really be a little bit more aggressive like that, how do you fix these kinds of things? And I've discussed this in videos before, but the whole high drop shot archy thing that lands softly in the kitchen just doesn't work anymore, guys. At least for most people, it doesn't work. And that's why, in terms of technique, it's really important to try to get your drops a little bit lower, try to get a little bit more topspin on them. I'll link a video that talks a little bit about that, but that would look like this. So did you see how that worked there? That ball, that third, was diving down. Did you see how that worked? And so it forced her to not hit a very high shot. She had to volley it. And then with that combination of me moving forward, that pretty much completely cuts off anything that she can do. So although there are technique things here, guys, it's about getting used to this sort of motion of coming into the net. I get it that, you know, obviously if you hit the ball too high and it's obvious and they're going to smash it or they're going to volley it or whatever, of course you want to stay back. Like that's super obvious. But if the ball is bouncing, you have to at least start to come forward to let your opponent know that you're not going to give up ground. That's the key here. It's a long-term strategic and almost a social thing. Because over time, if you just stay back here and you never come forward, over time, people are going to know that about you. And if you're at a tournament and your opponents go ask someone, hey, what does so-and-so do? Oh, well, he stays back all the time. So just, you know, your force are going to be super easy. I mean, that's how this kind of stuff works. So super, super important that you really try to get into the net. And so just by doing that one motion right here where I stopped, I kind of jammed my feet right here at the line, there's nothing she could do about that. She was forced to dink. If she hit anything high at all, I was going to put that away. That's the power of coming forward. And so there's kind of like a change in definition here. If we think about what a third shot drop is, we think of the traditional drop that, you know, you hit over the net and blah, 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 right? But it's not just the third, because again, if you're back here doing thirds and they're doing fourths over and over and over again, are those really third shots? Like, you're just repeating the same thing over. And so the full third experience, the full thing is hitting the third and then eventually making your way to the net. It's not just one thing. It's the entire transition process of getting into that dinking phase or into the setup phase or whatever it is that you want to call it. But it begins with actually moving forward. And it's, I don't really want to call it like a catch-22 or something, but it's like the iffy part of this is, well, if you don't have a good third, then you can't come forward, right? But if you're not coming forward, then you can't have a good third. And there's a little bit of a balance there, but it all starts with coming forward, and it all starts with hitting your drops just a little bit lower. Again, the whole high arcing third thing, you're just not seeing that as much anymore. People are doing more drives and more like top spinny thirds and so on. So in order for us to give you kind of a more realistic example here, we're just gonna do some skinny singles. I'm gonna serve to Linda, and then she's gonna return to me, and I'll kind of show you what it looks like here. So that was a good kind of real world example of how this process works, but now notice what happens when I don't move forward, okay? So do you see how she can just be kind of free and open? She can like take a step back, wait for it to bounce, take her time, and then roll it right back to me. You're in a losing position if you do that. Now, again, to contrast, let's do that one more time, but I'll come into the net a little bit, depending on my third, of course. Okay, so you see what happens now. She was trying to do the same shot she was doing previously, but because I came in, she couldn't do that. She got punished for it. It is all about understanding your opponent, what tools they have in their bag, but also how good was your third actually, okay? So there definitely is a technique sort of thing here. So I'm gonna try to do a little bit more topspin to keep the ball down, okay? The further down it is on that side, the higher it has to come up in terms of the angle. You see the difference? But the only reason why I could come in like that is because of that low sort of third. So guys, once again, this is a really complicated topic that has a lot of moving parts, and it's kind of a hard video to do on YouTube, but the general principle is that if you're doing your thirds from the baseline and the person at the net is constantly hitting them back to you, you're not actually getting anywhere. You're on a treadmill basically. And in order to break the habit, you start to have to move forward. But the more you move forward, the better your drops have to be. It's kind of, you're in this kind of weird, I don't want to call it a catch-22, but you're in this weird situation where in order for you to move in, your thirds have to be good, but in order for your thirds have to be good, they have to move in, right? So just be aware of this kind of stuff. Start to break that habit of staying back so much on that baseline. It will make a huge, massive difference. Do not give up ground. Do not tell your opponents that you're timid and that you stay back. Get more aggressive. Get up to that net. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. And of course, I'll see you next time.